Hey guys, just watching over this stuff post-edit. I just want to add a disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal representation in any way. If you need legal representation, don't Google or YouTube your way through it. Hire a lawyer. But I also know that a lot of people, especially if you're new in esport, because I know that was how I was, can't afford or doesn't want to spend the money on the lawyer. So this is just a guide to esport contracts. That's my experience. As I've been through a lot of esport contracts. I have helped a lot of other players with their contracts. So this is just my advice with some stories of how I almost got burned, how I've seen other people get burned, tips and so on that I've seen through legal representation in esports. That's what this video is all about. If you like it, like, subscribe, and bell notification. And so always, guys, enjoy the video. Hello to my beautiful and lovely gamers, my name is Jonal. Well, with all the drama around TFU and FaZe Clan and all that kind of bullshit, I decided to, let's talk about contracts in esports, stuff that you guys might want to take a look at, stuff that's happened to me in contracts that made me reject them, and so on in general, just like how does contracts in esports work. Note that something that I would say no to, you might agree to, and sometimes that I would agree to, you might want to say no to. It depends on individuals. And also, organization to organization is incredibly different. I have been in organizations where we legitimately just took and opened a Word document and wrote like some very specific rules down and signed them. It was very unofficial, but it was just like, yeah, we just want something written, like just to have it there, just for safety and so on. While other organizations have lawyers that I've been talking to that draft their contracts for them. A lot of our organizations also send out these pre-made contracts, and you can do alterations. You can say no to contracts. I think that's the most important thing. Read your contract, and there might be some very scary lawyer talk inside of there. I remember when I got my very first contract, I was scared to shit because I didn't understand it. But this is like a standard way. I've had about 20 contracts, and this is like a standard way that they will send them to you. So you will always notice in the beginning of your contract that there will be a definition area. So they will define certain stuff. For example, I just took the most recent contracts that I had. So it will say organization name and then and talent are hereinafter, wherever the context so required, referred to individually as a party and collectively as the parties. The talent and insert an organization name here, have approached a common understanding and consent that the talent will represent the company in all tournaments, competition, and events. Essentially, they're just saying that I am referred to as talent, and the party is collectively known as the parties, right? This is just a pure definition area. They will define other stuff in these parts of the contracts. For example, they will define what certain words mean, what they mean with transaction, what do they mean by... That is just pure stuff to make sure that the contract is clear. Because if it's not clear, then you can a lot of time wiggle yourself out of. For example, one of the contract here has, for example, every time they refer to an effective date, it shall mean, and then they will insert a date that is the effective date. So every time they write when the contract is in its effective date or whatever, they will mean this date and so on. What you really want to take a look at when you look at a contract is what they requires of you, the terms of the contract. That is a own definition all the time. What they will do inside of further rights and obligations. So what is your obligation to the organization? What is the organization's obligations to you? What is your rights? What is their rights? And you also want to look at stuff like what is the termination clause? How can you terminate? There's also then a clause of what the effects, so the consequences of your termination is. These are stuff that you want to read very thoroughly through, and you want to agree with every single point. And I gotta say this, because this happens too much that I get mad about it. You will talk to a manager, mostly. He's not the one that makes the contracts. They have a lawyer that makes the contract. The manager will normally tell you, oh, bro, it's fine, dude. Like, it's in the contract, but it's just like a standard thing, right? Like, we won't do it. Don't fucking sign it. Don't take their word for it. In the end, it doesn't matter. Even with me, I have 12,000 subscribers. If they fuck me, if I record a manager saying we won't do this in the contract, and they still do it, I can make a YouTube video on and, oh, look at this organization, this fucking bullshit. But in the end, I'm still in legal trouble. Their word doesn't mean shit if you signed it. Your signature means everything. On paper, not orally. It doesn't matter what they say into your one-on-one, if it's your bro, doesn't matter. If they say something in the contract, for example, in one of my contracts, they said that, okay, yeah, the team is if you're supposed to be contributing to promotion of brands, that's very common. So if my team is sponsored by Red Bull, then yeah, sure, I'm supposed to promote Red Bull. That makes sense, right, since I'm a part of the organization. But they also had a clause under that said that they were allowed to take full control over my social media accounts. And the way it was worded meant, and I talked to the manager, that they could request me to give my login information so that they could use and control my social media accounts as they wanted it. And he said it's just a safety thing. But I'm not fucking signing anything that lets them take my social media accounts. That is not happening. The same, I had another organization that had a revenue split. That is very, very common for a lot of players, as a lot of people, and this is where you might want to sign it, I don't. They wanted a 20-80 revenue split. I said no to that. Because what they were offering me, because of my YouTube channel, because of my private coaching, because it was referring to everything that was related to both my social media with the team and also to me as a Overwatch coach. So my private coaching, for example, that was involved in this clause. So they would take 20% of all my private coaching clients. They would take 20% of my YouTube ad revenue, my Twitch ad revenue. Everything, they would take 20% of it. And I would keep 80. And the salary they were giving me was not enough to compensate. And the organization was not big enough to compensate for it with promotion. If it was like, let's say Optic Gaming. Let's just say Optic. If Optic signed me, I would most likely gain so many followers, so many views, subscribers, just in promotion itself, brand deals that I could go into because of Optic, that them taking 20% of my ad revenue and like my revenue split, that would be very good because, okay, yeah, I went from, let's say, $1,000, I don't make that, but let's just say $1,000 to $40,000, $60,000, right? Okay, yeah, sure, you take 20%, but I still make so much money that it just fills the gap, right? So that would be beneficial, but this organization, it was not beneficial, and then I said, no, I'm not signing that unless you remove the revenue split. And this is stuff that you want to take a look at. The same goes in some contracts, and this is what some teams do, and this is something that you got to remember. An organization make you sign a contract because they want to protect themselves. That's also why some contracts have buyouts. If you are signed with an org, and they send you a computer, you can't just say, lol, fuck you, bye, right, because you got a free computer, and just leave, because there's a buyout. If you want to leave before the contract is terminated, you have to you have to pay a buyout. That way, you can't just join, get free shit, and leave, right? That's why some orgs have buyouts. So you gotta remember that before you start attacking every single clause, that it is to protect the organization. However, some orgs feels like they are protecting themselves more than they're protecting the players. They will be adding ridiculous shit. I had for example, I made an alteration to a contract a long while ago that said that I had to, like I was obligated to meet on every single live event that the organization was doing anywhere in the world. And also in the organization's obligations to me, they didn't specifically say that they had to pay for my travel. You guys can see how that quickly can go out of hand. So I added a clause that said, first, I want a clause that says I'm supposed to come there unless there is a valid reason for me not showing up. For example, my exams. For example, my illness. Something else, right? So I can say, no, I'm not coming because I have an exam. Fuck you. And I also said that I wanted a clause that says if you want me to fly me out to an official event of the organization, you have to fucking pay for my travel. Because I'm not paying for it. Because if you wanted me to fly to fucking South Korea, I'm not paying for a plane ticket to South Korea. That's expensive. Right? Certain stuff like that, you gotta watch out for. You gotta watch out what is your obligations, what do they cover of those obligations. When you say you want to cover certain, they want you to show up with uniforms, with jerseys on official events. Do they also specifically say that they are obligated to give you merchandise, right? If you have to rep merchandise on live events, do they pay you for that merchandise, or is that something that you need to take into consideration? Most orgs probably will give it to you, and most orgs are not out there to fuck you, but some of the clauses are built in a way that it might seem a bit shady. And in my opinion, you should never sign anything that you don't agree with. Even though you trust the guys, even though the guy says whatever they say, most of the time, either the manager is not in control. It's the organization leadership that's in control. It's a businessman that pays for them. A lot of organizations have sponsors of rich people behind them, and they are not the manager, and they don't give two fucks. You signed under a contract, you're supposed to go and do whatever they fucking want to, and that is the problem. So when you now look at contracts, every time you get a contract, I would say, some people say get a lawyer to look over it. I personally, for example, as a student, cannot afford a fucking lawyer every time I get a shitty contract. And hey, yo, dude, let me just pay you like $200. Can you check over this? That's like more than I make in a month for the org. So in my opinion, that makes no sense. But what you should do is you should read what are you obligated to do? What are they obligated to do? How do you get out of the contract if you don't want? So what is the clause for termination? And that is like the most important things, in my opinion, that you should check over. Read the entire contract, but note stuff like that. What are you obligated to economically? What can in future become a economic stuff? How do they manage social media accounts? And so on. And if you don't agree, talk with a manager and say, hey, I don't want to sign this because I think this clause is not okay. And if they are not willing to change it, then I highly recommend. And as a coach, I normally then get signed off as a freelancer instead. So they send me the money, but I don't sign a contract. But don't sign anything that you guys are not comfortable with. Anything that this seems shady, remember that a lot of it is to protect the organization. So stuff that may seem shady might not be shady, right? But for example, when they say that I have to meet to events, as long as I cannot, like, as long as there's not a justifiable reason for me not showing up, that's fine. Because they are supposed to be able to say, Jonal, you're sitting on your ass at home eating chocolate, get the fuck over to the boot camp, right? As long as they're paying for my boot camp trip and my stay, then that's fine, right? They need to protect themselves from players that are there to abuse them because they actually do pay you money. And if they don't protect themselves, they will lose money and go bankrupt. And that's the org down, right? That's investors' money just straight down the drain. So they need safe contract, but you also need to remember your rights as a player, as a coach, as whatever you are signing up on. So read through your contracts, guys. Check them out and so on. I hope this helps. And yeah, guys, as always, liking the video, subscribing, bell notification. Always help out the channel. Tell me down below, have you experienced stuff with contract? If so, is it good? Is it bad? What have you guys kind of been through? How did you resolve the problem? So we can help each other out in the community. That always helps out. In general, the more experience that we can get under our belt, the better it is. So hearing from other people's stories is always important. But as always, guys, I love you guys very much. Please take care of yourselves, stay positive. As always, guys, my name's been Jonal. You guys keep getting me in your crosshairs.